Blog Talk Radio.
Calling all men, it's now your time for your show with your coach, the Men's Advocate Show with Linda Gross. Relax, be heard, and be understood. It's a show where men can be men. Now here's the coach who has your back, Linda Gross.
Welcome, everybody, to another edition of the Men's Advocate Show with me, your host, Linda Gross. Today, we're going to be talking about She Serves a Sandwich and Beer. Well, what is this show about? Well, there are little displays of affection that your girl does that makes you feel so loved, so appreciated, and so cared for. It's all you can do but to fall in love with her, right? So a lot of men have written in their stories and their things that turn them on, and I wanted to share with you what they are. Really cute, really affectionate. These are the girls that are keepers. These are the girls that you want to have around you. Forget the hoe bags and the attention whoring and everything else. You don't need those types. So this is the type of girl I want you to find. And they're out there. There's not a lot of them, but if you are looking, they are there. They are there to be had. So I hope you can find one too. All right, let's get into it. A lot of guys wrote in to say the look, that they're very interested in the look. So here's some that fall in that category. She looks at me like she wants me. Logan says there's a certain way a woman looks at you when she wants you that's really hot and makes you feel so appreciated. Bentley goes on to say she stops and looks at me in the eyes meaningfully. Women get by the way, guys, women get turned on by what they hear. Men get turned on by what they see. Women who use their eyes in a flirtatious way always have an edge with guys. So keep that in mind. She winks at me. Lucas says the wink, it never fails. All right, next up, she compliments my appearance. Gavin says, complimenting our appearance, it's so rare, but when it happens, we remember forever. Next up, she compliments something about my clothing. Chase says, just complimenting something about my clothing really makes my day. As a guy, we don't really put a lot of thought into what we wear, but that doesn't mean we aren't self-conscious. So, receiving a compliment that is genuine and specific can really make us smile. How about she wears one of my shirts? Jameson says, kicking around the house in one of my shirts is an awesome feeling. All right, the next set of guys, they touched on the physical, and we know that you guys like the physical. All right, so here's what floated their boat. She hugs me. Hudson says, a hug. I have no idea why, but a good hug from a girl could make me fall in love with her. Wow, that's pretty powerful stuff, Hudson. She puts her head on my shoulder. Now, Christian says, putting your head on my shoulder while watching a movie or on the bus or virtually anywhere, to me, it feels like the girl is saying, you're the one I choose. I like you. All right. I have to agree with Christian on that one. Come up from behind and hug me around the neck. Connor says, when I'm sitting and she comes up from me from behind and hugs me around the neck, It's one of the best feelings ever. Asher goes on to say, she links arms with me while we are walking. Partner wants to add, she holds my hand in the car. Aw. The next one says, she hops into my arms when I go in for a hug. So Bryson says, when I go in for a hug and they do that little hop or jump and land in my arms, doesn't even have to be anything sexual. Just the fact that they want to be this close makes me happy. Jason goes on to say she scratches my stubble. Little things like a kiss on the neck, scratching my stubble, or a one-handed lower back rub while walking just does it for Jason. All right, who's up next? She snuggles up a little closer. Nicholas says, when my girlfriend and I are sitting peacefully on the couch, maybe watching a movie, and she does that girl thing where she snuggles up a little closer and lays her head on your shoulder or lap, man, that feels good. Way to go, Nicholas. I like that one too. She reaches for my hand. Nigel says, when I'm with someone, I love it when she reaches for my hand. To me, that is the single most loving gesture I could ever ask for. Touching my arm during a conversation. Josh says, touching my arm during a conversation, something about it just makes me feel wanted. I get you, Josh. Gabriel says she touches my face when she is kissing me. It is so nice. Anthony writes, well, she pats or grabs my butt. She brushes my arm as we stand by each other. So Caleb goes on to say, just a slight touch, just your hand on my hand, or brushing my arm as we stand by each other, it's just so wonderful. Kinnison says, she just looks me in the eyes and smiles. She scratches my back. So Jaden says, a back scratch, to me, there's nothing more that I enjoy while I lay there and suddenly feel her hand. Sorry, I got a little tickle in my throat. She smiles at me a lot when she's around me. So Jack says, honestly, if she is smiling a lot while being around me, I have 100% higher chance of falling for her. I love seeing people happy, and making people laugh. Also, someone who is smiling instantly becomes twice as attractive as others. Ladies, are you listening? She plays with my hair. Lincoln says, also, playing with my chest hair gets me hot, too. Aha. Leo goes on to say, she kisses me on the cheek when I come home from a busy day. Now, the following guys had entries in the food category, so let's see what they have to say. She makes me breakfast. Wyatt says, I started seeing this new girl. The second time I stayed at her place, I had to work early. So I showered there before work. While I was in the shower, she got out of bed and made me a quick breakfast before I left. It was nothing extravagant, but I appreciated it so much because it warmed my heart. What a nice gesture. Next up, bring me a grilled cheese sandwich while I'm working on your car, your computer, or something in your apartment. So Aiden says, I was working on her car. We just started dating, and she told me her car was having problems. Ugh, it needed a new timing chain. So I'm in the parking lot changing her timing chain, and she's all inside, all warm and cozy. And I gotta say, I was starting to feel a little used. Then she brought me a grilled cheese sandwich and a shot of bourbon. God bless that woman. What do they say? Food is the direct way to a guy's heart, right? Next up, she makes me a home cooked meal. Carter says, honestly, just a home cooked meal waiting for me is all a guy could ask for. Next up, she feeds me, Sam says. It just melts my heart when you feed me or when you cook enough so we have leftovers for lunch the next day. There is something so super endearing about sharing the TLC that goes into making the food with someone else. If a picture is worth 1,000 words, then a meal is worth 1,000 kisses. She makes me a surprise sandwich. Chase goes on to say, I was watching Netflix and she goes into the kitchen and for no reason comes back with a sandwich. I fell in love with her right then. I had not felt connected to someone as I had to her in over 15 years. Aw. She brings me another beer when this one is low. Avery says, I lived in Japan where some of the smaller traditional chivalry things are somewhat reversed. One of the things that girls do in Japan is to refill a drink for you when you run out. So imagine you're having dinner and you order a beer. Typically, they bring you a 40-ounce beer, but with a 16-ounce mug. So when you finish it, the girl refills it. It's a small gesture, but it's basically the nicest thing ever. So to translate that into American life, if he, granted, I don't want you to feed him, 6 or 12 beers in a night, but one or two, if he gets done with number one, he probably wants a number two. It'd be kind of cool to have number two ready to go, as he's emptying out number one. Next up, she leaves a surprise treat on my desk. So Milo says sometimes when my wife is out getting groceries, she'll pick me up a little treat or candy bar and then leave it sitting for me on my desk at home. It's really a nice surprise to come find what's new on my desk. So some guys, the following guys, said that they were touched emotionally, and here's what they had to write. Tell me I make you happy. Miles says, nothing sounds better than the guy hearing you make me happy. It just lets a guy know that you're doing things right. I get it. She compliments me. Matt says, any type of compliment towards something that I am proud of or something that is new in my life is just going to rock my world. How about when she apologizes when she's wrong? Xavier says when she apologizes after saying or doing something hurtful or thoughtless, that simple sorry goes a very long way in setting things right. She asked me how I am. Now, Lucas goes on to say, when a woman stops talking and simply asks, how are you? But really sincerely, not a question like, what's wrong or why are you so quiet? Just actually listen. It just makes me feel, Lucas says it just makes him feel so connected. I get you, Lucas. She tells me she wants to see me. Todd said his then girlfriend said, I want to see you, when he wasn't even sure how into the relationship she was. He said it really made my heart melt. How about she says my name? Sebastian says, just saying my name distinctly and with purpose makes me feel acknowledged and welcome. Well, thank you, Sebastian. Yeah, I like that too. I think it's a good tip to have in any situation, whether it's a stranger or a client. People really do like to hear the sound of their name. All right. The following guys wrote in to say that she is thoughtful. All right, so here's what they had to say. She sticks up for me. So Mason writes, this is going to sound extremely non-manly, but sticking up for me. I'm not afraid to fight my own battles, but having someone have my back, oh, it's like, oh, hell, you just said that? It makes me think she's the greatest. How about she leaves me Advil at the bedside table when she knows I'll wake up with a hangover? So Dylan goes on to say, I started seeing this girl recently, and I slept over at her place. We drank a lot the night before, and she let me sleep in. Before she went to work, she left me a toothbrush, Advil, and water next to the bed. Aw. She stops by to visit. Ethan says, well, for me, just stopping by spontaneously, sometimes just to visit, can really brighten my day. Now, you can get away with this in Europe. Unfortunately, in America, we're not that cozy. Even though it might be a legit girlfriend, we're not that cozy. I would amend this just slightly to say that she texts you first or she calls you first to say, hey, I was just thinking about stopping by for a few minutes. Is that okay with you? So, yeah, I get it. I think most people here, they do not want to be barged in on no matter how close you are to them. So it's just a cultural thing. All right. She has a hot towel ready for me when I get out of the shower. Daniel says it was the beginning of winter and the temps were starting to cool down. I was dreading turning the water off and facing the cold air of the room. When I pulled the curtain back, there she was, standing there with a towel. Not just any towel, mind you, a towel that she had warmed up on hot in the dryer. Very sweet. She holds the second door open for me. Taylor says, when entering a building that has two sets of doors, I hold the first one open for her, and then she holds the second door open for me. That tells me that she knows we're in this together. And for those of you who watched the movie The Bronx Tale, this is a classic scene. Back in the day before key fobs, the guy had to stick his key in the lock to open up her car door. Do you remember this scene? After having done so, she leaned over to his side to unlock his door from the inside. That's how you knew you had a keeper. All right, next up, she reaches for her wallet when the check comes. Now, Carter says when the check comes for dinner, she reaches for her wallet. I won't accept her paying, even her sharing the bill, but the gesture just speaks volumes. If she sits there staring at me, just waiting for me to pay, even though I'm going to pay anyway, there is no second date. I got you, Carter. She says hi with a genuine smile when she greets me. Gabriel says, just a hi with a genuine smile, it can do wonders. Next up, she is considerate. Ryan says if she's going to get something like coffee, water, or whatever, she offers to get me one too. This small gesture makes me feel part of her. It's like we're on a team. Next up, she texts me first. Caleb says if I meet a girl and she's willing to text me first to talk, I really appreciate it. It's really annoying to always have to be the first one to text and initiate the conversation. As a guy, it always makes you feel like maybe they don't want to talk to you and that you might be coming across as pushy. So when she puts out the effort, it takes away that anxiety. I see what you're saying, Caleb, and I know that eases your brains, right? Eases your brain. All righty. Well, that this one was short and sweet today, and I'm so glad you could join us. You're currently listening to the Men's Advocate Show with me, your host, Linda Gross. I would love to hear your comments and questions on this topic. Write me what your girl did that really made you feel affectionate, that really just made you go, she's one in a million and I really like her. I want to hear. Lots of ways you can leave a message. Just type into Google. Lots of ways to contact us. The men's same name of the show in all these different social media avenues. The Men's Advocate Show with me, your host, Linda Gross. And leave me a comment, won't you? You can do it on the chat line. You could do it on Blog Talk Radio. You could do it on SoundCloud or Facebook or Twitter or, heck, even IG. Actually, IG is a slightly different. It's Linda Gross Speaks on IG. All right. We will see you next week. We're typically here on Tuesdays, 3 p.m. Pacific, 6 p.m. Eastern Time, right here on Blog Talk Radio. Actually, next Tuesday, you are going to have to put a message reminder on your phone because we have some very special guests coming up next week. We have a really hot topic about the current affairs on all these girls and how they're dating same sex and what that does to their boyfriends. A lot of these women already are married or already have long-term boyfriends, but they're dumping the guy to be with the girl. What the heck is going on? So you'll want to definitely listen to me and my guests. That's coming up next Tuesday. So put that in your phone. Set the alarm, right? All right. So if you happen to have missed last week's show, so easy to find. All you have to do is type in the Men's Advocate Show with Linda Gross. You can find us right here on Blog Talk Radio. And the best place to find us is on SoundCloud, where you have the full archive of shows, 5 years of shows. Last week we were talking about the entitlement complex. Does your girlfriend have an excessive need for admiration? Maybe she has a disregard for other people's feelings, is unable to handle any criticism, and or has a sense of entitlement. Yep, that's what we talked about last week. So you might be dating a narcissist. Let's get right down to what you need to do. That was last week's show. You can listen to this one, download it, take it with you to go to the gym or on a hike or while you're doing your errands, and you can do some binge listening, listen to a whole bunch of shows at once. You know, you've got some catching up to do. All right. Thank you so much. If you enjoyed our show, show your love. You can do so in many ways. Listen, call, subscribe, chat, like our fan page, follow, comment, share, tell a friend, advertise with me. Again, you can just message me and I'll tell you how to make that happen. Start with my Amazon link, download my app, and buy my book on Amazon. And what is the book, you say? The book is The Science of Mastering Women, the real truth about women that will change your life forever. So go on Amazon, Mastering Women. You can download the ebook in a few seconds, or you can ask them to ship you a copy. I recommend sending the hard copy. That way you can use a yellow highlighter and go back and forth and get your needs met. All right? You can highlight the chapters that are most important to you. All right. Thank you again so much. Make sure you bookmark our show for next week, and we have special guests, and I'm very excited, so make that happen. Bye for now, and we will see you next week on the Men's Advocate Show.